Okay, this is a video on tempo changing in Logic. There are, of course, times where we might want to have the tempo slow down, speed up, maybe suddenly get faster, suddenly get slower, and we can control that within Logic. What you need to do, of course, we need to have some music in our track, and then we can actually start playing with the tempo. I've added a new software instrument. Of course, I can click on plus, software instrument. I've already got one in here. And I can choose the instrument that I want to use. I'll just kind of use a piano sound just to have something in there. How about Steinway Piano Club? Pretty groovy. All right, now I want to record something. Let me check my tempo, make sure this is good at 120. Oh, let me turn on my click track. Click track. Maybe I want to start a little bit slower. So I'm going to go to my tempo, 120. Maybe slow this down to 100. Return. Okay, that'll work. So I'm ready to record. Again, I can hit the record button, or I can hit the asterisk key on my keypad over on the far right. There we go. Or not, actually. Very sad song. Okay, so maybe I love that. I think it's perfect. I don't need to quantize or do anything to it. And now I'm just going to loop it several times so I can kind of play around with tempo. Tempo is changed with, tempo is universal, meaning that all tracks follow the same tempo. So since it's universal, another word for that is to say that something is global. And right above all the tracks, you see a label called global tracks. This is, of course, also where we added markers. So click on the arrow and I see by default marker, signature, and tempo. Well, we've already done stuff with markers, but here's tempo. I'm going to click on that to open up so I can just see more of my tempo. And notice it's showing me a line that represents my tempo. We can see that it starts at 100 and it remains steady. To create tempo changes, I basically have to click above or below this line whether I want the tempo to speed up or the tempo to slow down at any given point. Let's say I want this to start at 100 and maybe slowly speed up until measure 5. To do that, I'm not going to click on my line. As you can see, that'll just create a hand that I can drag up and down. I don't want to do that. I want to create a new point where I'm going to map my tempo, essentially. So to do that, I'm going to double click above my line. Just double click anywhere, really. I can move it if that's not it. And it's kind of readjusted it based on where I clicked, but you can see it's all of a sudden jumping to 111 beats per minute. Let's just hear what that sounds like. It's just a little bit faster. What if I grab this line, not the dot itself, but grab this line and drag it up to make it much faster? Pretty obvious what's going on. Now the way tempo mapping works within Logic, it creates these dots which are called nodes, node points. This little dot is saying, okay, at the beginning is 100 beats per minute. This one is saying, okay, at measure 5 it's 128. This one in between is kind of the way you can kind of change it so that it's not an immediate tempo change like we're seeing right now, which is this hard line just all of a sudden gets faster. I can grab that point, drag it over to actually make a curve. I just drag it wherever I want. You can kind of shape the curve. If I put it right in the middle, it kind of snaps into place. That's just a perfectly smooth line, just perfectly speeding up. Or I can say, oh, I want it to kind of by this point get a little bit faster, and then it kind of takes longer to finally reach 128. Or I can say, oh, it kind of takes a long time. Then all of a sudden at the end it starts speeding up really fast. Sometimes these type of curves like this or this feel a little more real because human beings don't do exactly perfect tempo changes like this. We kind of feel it differently. But for all intents and purposes, that's a pretty subtle change, so you can kind of use it any way for a gradual tempo change. Just hear what that sounds like. And now we're at 120. If I wanted it to slow down, I basically do the same thing, except now I'm going to say, okay, let's say at measure 13, I want it to slow down. Well, I double click underneath the line since I want a slower tempo. Just double click. Okay, it's at 93. Maybe I don't want it to slow down that much, or maybe I want to slow down even more. And as you see, if you pull it down, it'll just kind of reposition this stuff. And I've got now 69. Well, here's one node point, here's another. And you might think, oh, I can just grab this and if I want a gradual slowdown. But the problem is this point is now talking about the space between this one and this one. So if I grab that, this is the same as this really long, starting right here, it's going to cause this really long tempo change. So what I need to do, just grab this back to make it pop in there. I need to basically create 2 points. In other words, I want it to maybe start slowing down at 12 and then get down to 69. But I don't want anything to happen between measure 5 and measure 12. So I'm going to just create a point. It can be above or below, doesn't really matter. Just create it there. This, of course, is in the wrong place. I need it to be 128 to start. So I drag that down, 128. But now I have a start point right there, right there, and an end point. And now I have my midpoint. And now, of course, I can drag this to make it, that's going to be a pretty abrupt change. Let's take a listen. It really slowed down there at the end. But this, of course, makes your performance have a little more natural feel to it, having some tempo changes. No human being in the world is capable of keeping an exactly perfect beat. They can be pretty close, but they can't be as perfect as a computer. So this can help even if it's pretty subtle tempo changes or drastic ones like we just created. Okay, good luck with that.